All right, 49ers update. George Kittle, Kevin Givens up. We're in San Diego on the way to a wedding. And check this out. That's the San Diego Sports Arena. It's been there since 1966. There's a Chili's out in front of it now and a Chick-fil-A. That's going to make Lombardi herself happy. The Golden State Warriors, yes, the Bay Area's basketball team, they played some home games in this building. It's a rather ugly building called the Pechanga Arena now. That's a casino, I think. But they played some games there back in 1971 when they moved out of San Francisco, right as they were moving to Oakland. The Warriors were experimenting with a new Golden State name. They wanted to see if they could make all of California theirs. They didn't draw enough, and so anyway, they're in it. They went to Oakland. Now they're at the Chase Center in San Francisco. Let's talk the 49ers roster moves here as we get onto the freeway in San Diego. We got to head up to Escondido. Shout out to all the 49ers fans in this area of the state of California. George Kittle, Kevin Givens, both up for the 49ers from injured reserve. We expected this. This is big news for the 49ers. That's two starters that they get back. So Kittle obviously can help both the pass and the run game. They need to run against an Atlanta team that is number 20 against the run in terms of EPA. They've got really good cover guys, but they're a little bit lighter, the Falcons are. So Kittle can definitely help the 49ers finally kickstart this run game. Then they need really good defensive tackle play. I think Kevin Givens helps a lot with that. He's a starting caliber player. Tore his pectoral muscle over the course of training camp, but his back is ready to go now for the 49ers. Spent a week building his conditioning back up, and now the 49ers are in position to get him onto the field as well. The defensive tackle is going to be so important against Bijan Robinson and this Atlanta offense, which is really explosive. We saw it against the Bills last week. Bijan and the Atlanta rushing attack averaged 6.8 yards per carry against the Bills, who are purportedly a decent defense. Well, didn't look that way. And if the defensive tackles get blown out of the water for the 49ers, well, they're going to have trouble. So Kevin Givens is a very, very needed reinforcement for San Francisco. They're activating Trevis Gipson from the practice squad, which he's the edge rusher. He's been around this league for a while. Recovered the big fumble against the Rams that did let Baker Mayfield slip out of his grasp during the game last week against Tampa Bay. But he is now promoted from that practice squad to the 53-man roster. To make room, the 49ers have waived Braden Willis, the tight end. I'm sure he'll find his way back onto the practice squad after they do all this maneuvering. But with George Kittle back on the 53-man roster, they don't need Willis on the 53. Practice squad is enough for Braden Willis, and they can bring him back maybe on Wednesday, maybe even earlier next week. The two standard elevations, so these are just temporary elevations from the practice squad for the 49ers, include Nick Zakelj. So that tells us that Dominic Puni's knee probably still shaky. We're going to be going around the sports arena here again, by the way. This is what it looks like from the 8 freeway. Could show people beautiful Mission Valley in San Diego. This is the start of Interstate 8, which I believe goes through Yuma, Arizona as well. Hopefully we get a look at the sports arena in just a second. You get nice Southern California office parks here instead. But the 8 freeway goes through Mission Valley, which is where Jack Murphy Stadium and the Chargers used to play. There it is. There it is. Beautiful. The San Diego Sports Arena, now home of the San Diego Gulls, a minor league hockey team that likes to fight a lot. But it was once the home of the Golden State Warriors for just a little bit of time back in 1971. Anyway, I was on Nick Zakelj. Dominic Puni's knee has been bothering him. He missed practice on Wednesday. The 49ers need to get better guard play than they've had over the course of this season so far. And if Dominic Puni is not healthy enough to do that for them, he scored in the 24th percentile. He was an 89th percentile guy last year. If Puni is not healthy enough to do that for them, well, maybe Nick Zakelj will be able to sub in for him tomorrow. He does have some starting experience for the 49ers. If you go over there, that's the first mission in California, San Diego de Alcala, founded by Father Junipero Serra. So that's the initial settlement in the city of San Diego. It's on the very top of the hill there, and that's why they call this Mission Valley. the 8 freeway. I'm not sure if in San Diego they put the in front of the number of the freeway. I think they do. I think they've got a little bit more LA in them than they would like to admit here in San Diego. But anyway, Mission Valley is where the Chargers used to play and the Padres used to play too. The Padres moved downtown. The Chargers moved out of the city. Still sad. I still like to call them the San Diego Chargers. And you know, the last time the 49ers won a Super Bowl was against the San Diego Chargers. 49-26, and it was already over 3 decades ago. So I said Nick Zakel's going to be elevated from the practice squad. So is Malik Turner, the wide receiver. So the 49ers are going to get both Zakel and Turner up for this game. Turner, by the way, he's up because no Ricky Pearsall at the receiver position, and they put Marquez Valdez-Scantling on IR with his calf injury. So they might be a body short at receiver. Malik is a trusted veteran. 49ers are going to get him up for this game against the Falcons. All right, those are the roster moves, the big ones to remember. Kittle up, good for the 49ers. Givens up, very good for the 49ers. And Nick Zakel insurance in case Dominic Pooney is unable to stay healthy as they play the Falcons tomorrow. Here's my interview with 95.7 The Game. We'll talk to you soon. I'm not going to sign off the way that they do in Anchorman from San Diego.
We're doing great. Can you give us a sense of sort of what you felt out there this week as far as exactly what we were just talking about, the emotional toll of Fred Warner gone, but then the upswing of George Kittle back?
Well, you're never going to replace Fred Warner until he returns. I think it's clear that the defense is not going to be what they hoped that it would be at the start of this year, but you're going to have to pick up the slack with other phases of the game. Well, one thing that I will say is that they're getting a much bigger boost out of special teams than they thought they would, thanks to Eddie Pinheiro. That's changed the math for the 49ers this year. It's already ensured a couple of wins that they wouldn't have had last year, and I think that's the way that you have to look at this in the big picture for the 49ers, that they're going to have to be an elite offense this year. And a big part of that is George Kittle being on the field. You have to have him because he is the biggest leverage generating piece that there is in this league. And by that, I mean, you don't know if they're going to run. You don't know if they're going to pass when they break the huddle and he lines up out there. It puts defenses on their heels. It changes the equation of everything. And then ultimately, you're going to have Brock Purdy to sustain elite offensive play. We get that. They're going to have Ricky Pearsall, too. They could still get those guys back, though. With Fred Warner, yeah, I know that there's some kind of pie-in-the-sky scenario where he might be back at the very end of the season, but that would defy a lot of odds. You're counting on him being done for this year. You're not getting him back. You're not getting Nick Bosa back. The defense is not going to be a top 5, top 10 unit. It's just not possible. So you try to stop the sinking on that side of the ball, and you hope that your offense and Eddie Pinheiro and that special teams unit can give you enough of that efficiency to win a lot of games and make this a fun ride. And I think that's the way the 49ers are looking at things.
Yeah, and they're right in the thick of it. Even with a loss, they're not out of it. But I was telling Mark, they could go down from the 3 seed in the NFC to the 10 seed potentially with a loss. But I'm just fascinated, David, by the matchup with Atlanta and the fact that Atlanta blitzes more than any other team in football. How does that affect the way that they're going to use the Niners offensively as far as, keeping extra people in to protect when Atlanta is going to be looking to blitz?
It's kind of crazy because Jeff Ulbrich, the former 49ers linebacker, was their coordinator, was working with Robert Saleh in New York, and Saleh's not a guy that doesn't typically blitz a lot. Now, they evolved his defense with the Jets, with Ulbrich as his defensive coordinator in a couple of those seasons when they needed to, personnel-wise, to blitz a little bit more. But nothing at this rate. They blitz 41% of the time. That's even more than Brian Flores in Minnesota, who typically sets the standard. They blitzed Josh Allen 56% of the time on Monday night, and it didn't look like the Buffalo Bills were particularly ready for those looks. Now, the 49ers, they saw Todd Bowles, who blitzes a lot. He's like number 6 in the league on Sunday, and they didn't look ready for it, whether it be Luke Farrell getting beaten by Jamel Dean or just Mac Jones not being – Mac Jones is not mobile to begin with, but he's got some decent footwork. I don't think that he was close to 100% on Sunday. and he really, really struggled against that blitz. He threw both of his picks against it. There were a couple fumbles against the blitz, or near fumbles, I should say, because the second one was ruled down by the knee brace. The knee brace hit that ground. If he didn't have the knee brace on, I don't know if they're avoiding that giveaway. So he wasn't good against the blitz. One of my takeaways was, if this is what the 49ers are going to face for the rest of the year, and Mac Jones is going to be this hobbled, which, it's fair to assume both of those things might be true. I think teams are going to bring some blitzes after that. The 49ers really, really need Brock Purdy and his mobility. And this week, I think Mac had a better week health-wise. I think that the 49ers will hope that they're better from a protection standpoint, but they're going to have to get that ball out quick. Maybe you pare down the game plan again to what you saw against the Rams in the week before. What was that, week 5?
Yep.
Where Mac was getting the ball out very, very quickly, and that was the way they were able to mitigate pressure. You might have to do something similar here against Atlanta, because that old brick is going to bring it.
David Lombardi, SF Standards with us. Willard and Dibbs, 95.7 The Game. David, do you think that George Kittle is the magic elixir to the run game problems?
I think that it's one of the biggest things that the 49ers have been missing. Yes, like when you talk about the leverage feats, it's not the only thing that they've been missing. I think that the interior line has not been straining enough through some of its blocks. I mean, you're talent deficient there right now, because Connor Colby's a rookie at left guard. You're planning to enter the season with Ben Bart starting, and I think that Dominic Purdy obviously has been bothered by that knee that he suffered in week 2 of the preseason. So this is somebody who was an 89th percentile guard by the grade system last year and is 24th percentile now. So there's obviously something not 100% with Dominic Purdy, and I think you need at least one of those guard positions to be a plus performer in this. You can scheme around one, you can't scheme around both, and they've also been beaten up at wide receiver, and when wide receiver is what threatens to blow the top off of any defense that is gambling a little bit too hard against the run. And right now, obviously no Ayuk, but there haven't been Pearsall. There have been so many injuries that the guys going in and out. I think the defenses have played this combination of a 5-man fronts and 2-shell coverage. So you're basically taking away, you're very aggressive at the line of scrimmage, and then you're also taking away the explosives. The 49ers don't have a single explosive run yet this season, and they've been able to get away with it. I mean, define getting away with it, right? The 49ers lead the league in passing yardage. So they're taking advantage of the fact that these defenses are gearing up for the run, but that's the way that you should play the 49ers right now. Force them into being imbalanced, and it's taken a couple miraculous escapes for the 49ers to be 4-2. So if they want to make the success a little bit more sustainable, they will have to find that run. And I think that this week, Atlanta's the number 20 run defense in football. This is the opportunity. These guys run a lot of lighter-based fronts. Like Atlanta, they're good defense, but this is a blitzing defense. This is a lighter defense. This is a defense that is somewhat susceptible to the run game. So I think it's important for the 49ers to get it done this week.
David Lombardi from the SF Standard here on 95.7 The Game. You mentioned Ayuk and Pearsall. Neither will play. Ayuk's missed the entire year. Having seen them maybe a little bit at practice or getting the sense for what's going on, what do you think their condition is relative to a possible return?
I think Ricky, I talked to him this week. He's feeling a lot better. I would think next week is a reasonable target for Ricky Pearsall. They were thinking about maybe trying to get him out toward the end of this week, but I think that he banged his knee pretty good. And by the way, go back and watch the play against Jacksonville. It was on that deep pass where he toe tapped on the sideline. I can't believe that play wasn't looked at. Ricky showed me a picture on his phone this week in the locker room that one of the 49ers team photographers got, and he's in bounds, and I don't think that ball popped out. And you talk about that was the 49ers' first loss, and obviously that was a big loss of Ricky Pearsall on the play where he banged his knee. But if that play is ruled a catch, as I think it should have been, I mean, I've seen the photographic evidence now. Like, I wonder that they probably beat Jacksonville anyway. That's a big what if. But I would expect Pearsall to be back in practice next week. We'll see if he plays against Houston. And Brandon Ayuk, Kyle Shanahan hasn't given a firm date on that one yet. I don't know if they have an exact target date, but he did casually mention Week 10 as a kind of a general expectation, which I think is really positive news for the 49ers. I think a lot of people had resigned themselves to like, oh, this must be after the bye since his knee got so torn up. But Week 10 would be the Rams game when the Rams come to Levi Stadium. So, again, that's not a formal date or anything, but Shanahan did mention it in casual passing during his conference call. So I would start to monitor that. I did see Brandon in the locker room today. So he's been around. He's been working out. And I can tell you he's really, really hungry to get back based on what I've gathered over the past couple months.
David, do you also think next week is the week for Brock?
I think so. Yeah, I think they want to make sure that he's at 100% or as you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you now. Yeah.
Okay, good. So it seemed like it cut out there. I think that they want to make sure that he's as close to 100% as possible because the pathway forward for this team is really narrow in that they have to have an elite offense. And to have an elite offense, they're going to have a mobile quarterback. I think that you saw on Sunday the dangers of having a quarterback who's immobile. I think Mac Jones has done a fantastic job, but he was the QB2 for a reason. They paid Brock Purdy for a reason. His pressure to sack ratio is elite. He's one of the best in the game at escaping, and given the way that defensive lines are dominating offensive lines and the way that defenses are blitzing these days, you just have to have a mobile guy if you want to sustain top 5 level offensive play. And if Brock is at 80%, and then, just like the Jacksonville game, he had to go out there because Mac was more hurt than he was. But if Brock goes out there at 80% and then is 60% leaving the game, you get stuck on a treadmill of mediocrity that you won't be able to get off. So you have to get him to 100% or very, very close to it so this thing doesn't keep on, reverting back to a more injured state. And that's why the long game is something the 49ers need to play. He had a good week of practice. I think he's in a position now where he's got a real good chance to be at that threshold that the 49ers need next week. If not, then the week after against the Giants. The only unfortunate thing about this timing, guys, is that these next 2 games are on turf.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And MetLife Stadium is Met Death Stadium, as I call it. That probably will make the 49ers cringe, or their fans cringe at least, if that's when Brock Purdy is returning from a turf toe.
David Lombardi, SF Standard. Also, I think people can hear it in your voice when you say the path forward for success for this team is very narrow, and I get it. I think it's almost being undersold by people that Fred Warner and Nick Bosa are gone just because they happen to be 4-2 in the moment. But can you detail for everybody listening what you think right now is the 49ers' philosophy as they approach the trade deadline in terms of adding players?
Well, I actually think just given their competitive window, like this is year 1 of 3 and a ramp up, right? This was the year where they're reloading the roster around the veteran pillars. So I think that like the prime peak of this team as they're building it right now, probably on paper, is 2026, because that's when these 2 rookie classes will have had some time to mature, right, in 2024 and 2025. And then theoretically, you still have guys like Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Christian McCaffrey, maybe especially with McCaffrey, you're kind of moving toward the end of their primes, but you still have them there. So I think that anything that the 49ers are doing right now, they're looking at it in this at least a 2-year window picture. So I think that the trades that they have been considering or throughout this entire process, and that's even before Fred Warner went down, would be ones where they can get a guy who can help them for 2026 as well. So I look to the Jets because they're 0-6. They got guys like Quincy Williams, a linebacker who played for Sala, who is under contract through 2026. They've got a player like Jermaine Johnson, an edge rusher who's a solid guy, who's under contract for 2026. So if you trade for a player like that, you get 2 potential benefits. You get somebody who can help you prevent the bottom from falling out of the defense this year, which I think is really important. I think that young guys, like, forget 20-25 chances for a second. Just think about the development that they're trying to do. They had Bosa and Warner in there as these pillars to help prop the young guys up, to help with confidence and development. And if the defense completely craters, and it did after Warner went down against the Bucs, that's not good, right? So they might find a need to prop the defense up here in 2025, just for the developmental purposes that they've been going for. And two, you also could have somebody that's not just a rental. If you get a player that you could keep around for at least one more year, that could really fit into the framework of what you're trying to accomplish in 2026.
And also on the other side of the ball, you've got Jauan Jennings, who, in thinking about what you're talking about, 2026, he likely won't be here. Is there any chance that, and put aside the sideline kerfuffle or whatever you want to call it, but is there any chance that they could look to move Jauan, knowing that they're getting other receiver help coming back soon?
I suppose it's a possibility. Player for player trades in the NFL, I get that they've become a little more common, but it's hard to match up contractual realities. And then also, if the 49ers want to get this run game going, Jauan Jennings is a really, really important part of them doing that. And he's been banged up. He had 5 broken ribs on top of 2 other injuries. I think it's really, to me, I don't have inside information on this, but I'm just reading the room. And Jauan, did not get the contract extension from the 49ers because they were pressed up between a rock and a hard place. They couldn't offer anything that he thought would be fair, given what happened to Brandon Ayuk last year. So he got the contract sweetener, which is incentive-based. He, $3 million in incentives. He's out there playing with fractured ribs and then 2 other injuries. And when that whole thing happened with Kyle Shanahan on the sideline, he wasn't in the game in a 2-minute drill. So here he is, laying his body out on the line with broken ribs, but he's not in the game during the time when he could actually pick up some of the the statistical production necessary for these incentives. I mean, I think it's very easy to empathize with what Jauan Jennings' side of that might have been. Again, I don't have any inside information on that, so I'm just speculating about the dynamics. And it seems that, Jennings is just such a competitive guy, such a glue piece for what the 49ers want to do. I don't think that this is some kind of toxic presence that the 49ers feel they need to rid themselves of. I think it was 2 competitive people with very understandable backstory at play there, if that's indeed what was going on to help stoke those frustrations. But he's a very, very important run blocker, presence on the perimeter that the 49ers are going to need to win this game on Sunday against Atlanta.
David Lombardi with us. David, hey, before you run, I would love to address something that, it's like with all the other things going on, I just don't know how many people have even looked at this, but what are your thoughts on what the Niners are doing at the safety positions? With Mustafa coming back, Siegel is a kid. They obviously have not been into what Pinnock has been doing, and then Jair Brown is his own story. How do you sort of see them set up at that position, and what do they want to do about it going forward?
Well, it's interesting because before Fred Warner went down on Sunday, and the plans were revealed that Jason Pinnock wouldn't be starting anymore. He has been the better of the 49ers' 2 starting safeties so far this year because Marquise Siegel has just been getting picked on relentlessly. He's given up more yards into his coverage than any other safety in the entire NFL. And I think that Siegel, they're happy with his development, but right now he's a rookie thrust into the fire, probably a little bit too early. And he's that one weak link that teams are deciding to throw at. And I thought, when Pinnock went down, there had also been a report from somebody covering the Packers that the 49ers had called to check in on this edge rusher named Kingsley Enagbari, who has basically been pushed out of a regular role by Micah Parsons on the trade that Green Bay made. So, and the Packers, I mean, obviously one of the better teams in the NFL this year, their one biggest need on defense is safety. So I made it trying to bubble wrap Jason Pinnock here just in case maybe a player-for-player swap is something that might work here. Now, then Fred Warner got hurt, and maybe a move like that is off the table for the 49ers. But that's the first thing that I thought, because it was an interesting dynamic in that they were continuing to start the rookie who had struggled, and the other safety who had been generally solid. I don't think they've gotten great safety play from either spot this year, but the other guy was headed to the bench. Then what happened during the game on Sunday is that Siegel's snap count actually also went down. It was the first time that he didn't take every single snap for the 49ers. Obviously, Jair Brown started instead of Pinnock, and you had Malik Mustafa come back. This week we heard Robert Saleh say that the only fixed variable there is Malik Mustafa. He's going to return to a starting spot, and then whatever happens in spots 2, 3, and 4 is completely up for grabs. So obviously a reflection of the fact that Mustafa is a really good player coming off the ACL, but he's establishing himself again, and a reflection of the fact that Siegel has struggled. Everything else, we will see. And I think it could even be a 4-man rotation this week. I definitely think they're going to run some big nickel against Kyle Pitts and the Falcons, who like to run the ball as well. So we'll see. But I think that this week should bring plenty of intrigue at that safety position. You might see all 4 of them play.
David, great stuff, and we really appreciate you jumping in as always.
Yep, thank you.